This is a heart with a meteorite lodged inside it. It left this man mysteriously unconscious at home for 2 full years. But when he returned to school and took the class placement test, he broke the school's historical records, one after another. Even the genius in his class ended up losing to him. In reality, this man was never truly sick. His name was Chen Du. 2 years ago, Chengdu City was invaded by another world. A meteorite fell from the sky and struck his body directly. But instead of disappearing, it stayed inside his heart forever. From that day on, Chengdu would enter a mysterious space every night. Inside that space were countless monsters. Their goal was to destroy a crystal, while Chengdu's mission was to protect it. If the crystal was destroyed, he would fall unconscious for the entire next day. But if he died fighting to protect it, he would wake up quickly and feel energized for the whole day. At first, Chengdu was too afraid to risk his life. As a result, he kept passing out, which worried his family so much that they put him on medical leave for 2 years. Only after he figured out how dying worked did his condition finally improve. Of course, protecting the crystal also came with rewards. Every time he survived a wave of monsters, his mental power increased a little. As his mental power grew, his memory and comprehension became insanely strong. Even after missing school for 2 full years, he could still score perfectly in academic subjects. Today was Chengdu's 3rd day back at school. Mr. Wu Jie stood at the podium and announced that the class placement exam was about to begin. The total score was 750 points, 225 for academics, and a massive 525 for the martial exam. The school would also create a Hong Ji class, and only the top 10 students by total score could enter. Those who got in would receive the school's best resources, and Chengdu was determined to take that chance. Just then, someone blocked Chengdu's path. It was Feng Rui, the guy who had never gotten along with him since their 1st year of high school. His purpose was simple: to mock him. A sick weakling who spent 2 years lying at home actually dared to take the Hongji class exam. Did he really think he was some kind of genius? Chengdu slapped away the hand Feng Rui tried to put on him. Then, he told him to worry about his own exam first. Feng Rui's face darkened at once. Back in their 1st year, Chengdu had been nothing but a pushover. Yet now he dared to act so arrogant. A vicious idea instantly formed in Feng Rui's mind. During the martial exam, he would pretend to make a mistake and cripple Chengdu, and no one would be able to blame him. But even if Chengdu knew what Feng Rui was thinking, he would not care at all. Right now, he looked at the history and culture questions on the computer and found the world background question ridiculously easy. In the year 2842 of the Old Era, a civilization from another world discovered Earth and invaded it. Humanity was forced to fight back, but even after using its ultimate weapons, it still lost to the other world. After that, otherworldly radiation began affecting humans, breaking through the limits of the human body and triggering evolution. By August 27, 2860 of the Old Era, every adult had reached level 2 life intensity. That day marked the official end of the Old Era and the beginning of the New Era. Soon, Chengdu finished every question and submitted the exam directly. As expected, he scored full marks. All of this was thanks to the mysterious space strengthening his mental power, giving him a photographic memory after he woke up. That evening, Chengdu returned home. Just as he sat down for dinner, his father handed him a bottle of qi blood powder, leaving Chengdu wondering where it came from. His father did not explain much. He only said he had bought it to support Chengdu's attempt to enter the Hongzhi class. Chengdu knew exactly how expensive qi blood powder was, so he muttered that he didn't need it to get in. His father immediately saw through him. He patted his shoulder and assured him that the family could easily provide for both him and his younger sister, so he didn't need to worry about money. Chengdu nodded firmly, but after returning to his bedroom, he took a deep breath and focused his mind. One bottle of qi blood powder cost 20,000, and his family could not truly afford that. Whether he could enter the Hongzhi class would depend on tonight. Soon, Chengdu entered that mysterious space once again. After 2 years of fighting and killing every single night, both his mental power and life intensity had reached level 5. As for the defense stages, he could already clear the first 4 waves with ease. As long as he survived 1 more wave, he would receive the grand reward for the 5th stage. But the monster on the 5th stage was no joke either. It was a Western fire-breathing dragon. Chengdu felt no fear at all, because he had already fought this dragon countless times. The next second, he stepped forward and charged straight toward it. As expected, the dragon swept its tail at him, and Chengdu immediately blocked with the sword in his hand. Using that force to redirect the impact, he perfectly avoided the dragon's massive tail. Right after that, Chengdu unleashed the flowing light sword technique he had been practicing all these years. With Forest Breeze, he instantly slashed across the dragon's abdomen. The wound sent the dragon into a violent rage, forcing Chengdu to become even more cautious. After dodging the dragon's next attack, Chengdu used its huge body as footing and leapt several times, quickly reaching its head. His target was the dragon's relatively vulnerable mouth, but a blast of dragon breath ruined his plan on the spot. However, after fighting it so many times, Chengdu had already mastered the dragon's battle rhythm. The instant it released its breath attack, he used all his strength to throw the sword in his hand. The sword tore through the air and pierced straight through the dragon's eye. Taking advantage of the dragon's blindness, Chengdu retrieved his sword and smoothly unleashed golden drums resounding from the flowing light sword technique. That strike pierced directly through the dragon's skull. As Chengdu continued finishing it off, the dragon's life finally faded away. Then the mysterious Spaces notification rang out, congratulating him for successfully defending against the 5th wave of monsters and increasing his mental power by 1 point. At the same time, he also received the mysterious grand reward for the 5th stage, the Void Immortal Visualization Method. This shocked Chengdu, because he had learned at school that visualization methods were extremely rare techniques for cultivating mental power. But before he could study it carefully, the 6th wave of monsters had already arrived. As expected, Chengdu failed. However, their life intensity was only 1 level higher than his. The real problem was that there were 30 of them, so he would likely be stuck here for a while. But right now, what truly interested Chengdu was the visualization method in his hand. The moment he focused and began reading it, his consciousness was pulled into an unfamiliar space. An indescribably massive monster appeared before his eyes, and Chengdu instantly understood the true purpose of the visualization method. As long as he gazed at this giant, it would put him through a trial, allowing him to raise his mental power. The next day arrived quickly, and Chengdu's younger sister came to call him for breakfast early in the morning. But when she saw Chengdu changing clothes, she asked in disbelief why he seemed more handsome than before. Chengdu rubbed her head and asked in return if he wasn't handsome before. His sister blushed slightly and muttered that he really was not this handsome before. Chengdu checked himself as well and did feel that his body had changed a little. It was probably because of the visualization method. After arriving at the school gym to warm up, Chengdu could clearly feel that every part of his body had improved. The visualization method was indeed powerful, but of course, that annoying fly had to show up again. As soon as Feng Rui arrived, he started mocking Chengdu again, saying a guy who had missed school for 2 years had come back just to kindly take last place for everyone. Chengdu fired back without holding back, saying that was still better than someone being so stupid they could not even pass the academic exam. Feng Rui instantly exploded with anger, but Chengdu had not named anyone, so if Feng Rui insisted on taking it personally, that was his own problem. Just as the conflict was about to escalate, a classmate quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Feng Rui could only leave behind a threat, telling Chengdu to be careful during the exam that afternoon. Seeing this, the kind classmate reminded Chengdu that since he had been away for 2 years, he might not know Feng Rui's second uncle was the school's academic affairs director, which was why Feng Rui dared to act so arrogantly. Apparently, the academic affairs director had already leaked this year's martial assessment content to Feng Rui, meaning Chengdu also had to watch out for them trying to trip him up. Just then, the broadcast rang out, announcing that the martial exam would be divided into a strength test and a combat test. All candidates were to take the tests in order. Anyone who ranked at the bottom in the sandbag striking test would be eliminated immediately. To prepare for the afternoon combat test, Chengdu decided to hold back some of his strength. Feng Rui, on the other hand, went all out from the very beginning. As soon as the assessment began, Feng Rui threw a powerful punch. The massive sandbag was actually sent flying on the spot. His 2 lackeys were so excited that they immediately cheered him on. Then, they turned to look at Chengdu, convinced that he would not even make it past the first round. But the very next second, they were completely stunned, because with 1 punch, Chengdu sent the sandbag flying high into the air. Everyone found it unbelievable. How could someone with 5.1 life intensity produce 1500 Jin of punching force? The teacher was just as shocked. Normally, someone with 5.1 life intensity could only produce around 1000 Jin of force, and even in the Hongji class, no one could reach this level. He immediately asked his assistant to bring over Chengdu's file. After reading it, he was even more shocked. Missing school for 2 years was surprising enough, but Chengdu's martial technique progress had actually reached first tier at 55%. This kid might really be a hidden expert, That made the teacher start looking forward to the afternoon combat test. Time passed in a flash, and the afternoon combat matches soon began. Chen Du's opponent was none other than his old acquaintance, Feng Rui. The other students immediately began whispering among themselves, but most of them believed Chen Du, who had missed school for 2 years, could not possibly defeat Feng Rui. On the arena, after Feng Rui finished talking trash, he immediately took out his staff weapon and unleashed "Stop War with Martial Force." Although Feng Rui had a terrible personality, his strength was undeniable, and he swung the staff in his hands with impressive skill. Chen Du blocked and parried each strike, quickly finding an opening to counterattack. He slammed the hilt of his sword into Feng Rui's nose, giving him a taste of a real heated duel. That blow completely enraged Feng Rui. He shouted that he would teach Chen Du a lesson, and that he was the one who would enter the Hongzhi class, then went all out and pushed himself beyond his limits. The staff in his hands turned into countless afterimages, raining down toward Chen Du. But with a slight shift of his footwork, Chen Du dodged every attack with ease. Just then, Feng Rui suddenly changed his attack pattern and struck with clear killing intent. One look at the shattered floor was enough to show how vicious that blow was. However, Chen Du had gained endless real combat experience inside the mysterious space, so Feng Rui's attack failed to touch him. Still, Feng Rui's combat experience was not bad either. After missing his first strike, he quickly pulled back his staff and began gathering power. The next second, he thrust the staff forward with brutal force, aiming straight at Chen Du. Seeing this, Chen Du swung his sword to counter without hesitation. But at the exact moment their weapons collided, Chen Du suddenly withdrew the force behind his sword. This unexpected change instantly threw Feng Rui off balance. Chen Du seized the chance and unleashed Forest Breeze, sending several streaks of sword light crashing into Feng Rui's body. The attack heavily injured Feng Rui on the spot. But Feng Rui still refused to give up. He pulled out a dagger and tried to counterattack, only for Chen Du to block it easily with his sword. The next second, Chen Du slapped him hard across his ugly face. Feng Rui was sent flying and completely lost consciousness. Countless students were stunned, realizing that a true dark horse had appeared. The teacher immediately told the students to carry Feng Rui to the medical room. Chen Du's outstanding performance also fully caught the teacher's attention. As for Chen Du being too heavy-handed, the teacher did not criticize him at all, and simply concluded that this was real combat. So injuries were unavoidable. At the same time, the teacher decided to report Chen Du's performance to the principal. After shocking everyone in the combat exam, Chen Du arrived at the virtual battle pod. This was equipment issued by the school to every student. Once inside, students could be matched with martial artists of a similar level. Because Chen Du had spent the past 2 years at home, his current rank was only bronze. And after beating Feng Rui so badly today, Feng Rui's second uncle, the academic affairs director, would most likely try to make his life miserable. The battle records from the virtual battle pod would be uploaded to the Blue Star Youth Ranking, a global talent list created for college entrance exam candidates, and a worldwide recognized ranking of martial technique strength. Not even anyone from the Hongzhi class had made it onto that ranking. As long as Chen Du could earn a place on it, everyone trying to target him would have to step aside. For his first battle, Chen Du decided to warm up first, and since he did not want to reveal his handsome face, he chose a pig head mask. Just as Chen Du was waiting for his opponent, a figure suddenly rushed out from behind him. Caught off guard, Chen Du immediately raised his sword and blocked the sneak attack. The girl who failed to ambush him did not look embarrassed at all. Instead, she praised his reaction speed, then reminded him that this was not a formal martial exam, so no one had to greet their opponent before attacking. That taught Chen Du a lesson. He immediately raised his sword and charged toward her. But the girl's movement technique was far too agile, and Chen Du's sword moves failed to produce any real effect. At that moment, Chen Du caught a small opening and unleashed Azure Dragon Thrust. The girl dodged it and kicked him in return, then commented that although the move was clearly meant to be a thrust, he had used it like an ordinary sword technique. She also reminded Chen Du that the flowing light sword technique did not need to be limited to a fixed form, and that he should think more about the essence of the martial technique itself. Her words immediately made Chen Du fall into deep thought. But they were still in the middle of a fight, and the moment Chen Du got distracted, the girl seized the opportunity. She instantly flashed above him and locked her legs around his neck. Then she drove the dagger in her hand straight into Chen Du's head. Naturally, Chen Du's first virtual battle ended in defeat. He felt a little helpless because the girl clearly had the strength to beat him head-on. Yet she still insisted on using a sneak attack. However, The girl's words made Chen Du fall into deep thought again. He needed to think more about the essence of martial techniques. The flowing light sword technique had 4 moves, and Azure Dragon Thrust was the only one he was still unfamiliar with. As a thrusting move, its nature was closer to an assassin's attack, but Chen Du had been using it far too directly. After figuring this out, Chen Du immediately started another battle. But this time, his opponent turned out to be a bulky tank-type fighter, whose weapon countered his own. Even so, Chen Du was faster and more skilled, so the advantage was still on his side. Countless streaks of sword light slashed toward the brawny man from every direction. This was draw the ground as a prison from the flowing light sword technique. Right after that, Chen Du followed up with golden drums resounding and slashed the man straight across the chin. That strike completely enraged the brawny man. He swung his meteor hammer and smashed it viciously toward Chen Du. Chen Du's eyes flashed as he unleashed Forest Breeze, sending countless sword lights crashing into the incoming meteor hammer. The brawny man was about to counterattack again, but Chen Du had somehow already appeared behind him. At the same time, Azure Dragon Thrust followed from Chen Du's sword and pierced straight through the man's neck. With this victory, Chen Du gained a deeper understanding of how Azure Dragon Thrust should be used. A sword was not limited to agility alone. It could change in countless ways, becoming hard or soft, direct or deceptive, moving like thunder or flowing like a quiet stream. As the final move of the flowing light sword technique, Azure Dragon Thrust was likely meant to teach him that sword techniques could be used openly and honorably, but also with hidden, unexpected intent. A sword was a weapon that should never be trapped by a single definition. Just then, the mysterious spaces notification rang out. Chen Du's swordsmanship rose from first tier at 89% to 90%. Then he immediately began another battle, and his mastery of the flowing light sword technique continued to soar. After fighting for the entire afternoon, Chen Du was finally completely drained. At the same time, his holographic watch suddenly rang with a notification, congratulating him for entering the top 10,000 of the Blue Star Youth ranking. Curious, Chen Du opened the full details. He was ranked 6,219th on the Blue Star ranking, 645th on the 7th Ecosphere Youth ranking, and 55th on the Jushong Region Youth ranking. He also placed 7th on the Ziyun District Youth ranking, and in his own Liangqing District, he had taken first place directly. This made Chen Du extremely excited, because now no one could stop him from entering the Hengji class. The next day, at Liangcheng No. 1 High School, just as Chen Du was heading to class, trouble arrived right on schedule. Feng Rui's second uncle, the academic affairs director, stopped Chen Du on the spot and immediately took the moral high ground, accusing him of disrespecting teachers and failing to greet a teacher properly. Even though Chen Du was clearly wearing his school uniform, the man still scolded him for having an improper appearance. As the surrounding students watched the drama unfold, they instantly understood what was really going on. Facing the academic affairs director's scolding, Chen Du directly asked which school rule he had supposedly violated. Seeing that Chen Du dared to talk back, the academic affairs director raised the wooden stick in his hand and swung it at him. When Chen Du even dared to block it, the director cursed him as a student with no respect for teachers and said he would report him to the principal and have him expelled. But just then, as if summoned by his words, the principal of Liangcheng No. 1 High School arrived together with the mayor of Liangcheng. The academic affairs director still tried to make a complaint, but the principal ignored him on the spot and shut him down directly. Then, the principal walked over to Chen Du warmly, praising him alongside the mayor, and saying he had done an excellent job by entering the top 10,000 of the Blue Star Youth ranking. The moment those words came out, everyone, including the academic affairs director who had just targeted Chen Du, was shocked speechless. None of them had expected Chen Du to be this strong. At that moment, the academic affairs director finally understood that his future was probably finished. Because Chen Du had entered the top 10,000 of the Blue Star Youth ranking, both the principal and the mayor personally came for him and brought him into a meeting room. There were already 2 people inside. The guy wearing a hat was Morek, the top martial arts student at Liangcheng No. 1 High School. The other was Lu Bo, a student from Liangcheng No. 2 High School, who ranked just below Chen Du on the Liangcheng Youth ranking. The 3 of them did not know one another, so out of courtesy, they simply nodded to each other. The mayor had called them here because the 100 cities under Ziyun District were about to hold a competition for senior high school students. Each city would send its top 3 senior students in martial technique rankings, and the rankings would be based on the data from exactly 6 o'clock last night. The team would be led by a martial artist above level 15 and head to Haicheng No. 1 High School for the 3-day 100-city championship. In this 100-city championship, The final top 10 would each receive college entrance exam bonus points and cash prizes, starting with at least 10 bonus points and 100,000 in prize money. The mayor asked Chengdu and the other two whether they were willing to participate. Morek was a little curious. Since this was a martial technique competition, why not hold it directly in the virtual world? The mayor explained that the higher-ups believed real combat could better test a person's true ability. Martial artists would be responsible for safety, and special clothing would be used to keep the matches within the same life intensity level. Chengdu's current martial technique level was already at least within the top 20 of Ziyun district, and with his daily improvement speed, reaching the top 3 should not be a problem. So Chengdu chose to participate. The other two did not refuse either. The mayor was very pleased and told them they would be notified again when it was time to leave. After walking out of the meeting room, Chengdu secretly made up his mind to take a top 3 spot so his parents could have an easier time. Naturally, Chengdu also entered the Hongji class. Since there were no name tags on the seats, he casually picked one and sat down. But the moment he sat down, trouble immediately followed. A huge guy appeared in front of Chengdu first. He was Peng Hu, ranked 10th in the Hongji class. He grinned and asked who Chengdu thought he was, and whether he was even worthy of sitting in that seat. Chengdu never tolerated people who ran their mouths. But just as the conflict was about to break out, Morek stepped in and stopped them. Chengdu was a little surprised. For someone to approach silently, without him noticing, that person's life intensity had to be at least 2 levels higher than his. At the same time, Morek explained the rules of the Hongji class. Every seat in the class was decided by strength. Once a month, the class held a seat ranking battle, using real combat to decide everyone's position. The bottom 10 students would have to stand during class for the entire next month. Since Morek had stepped in, Peng Hu backed down out of respect and did not keep pushing the issue. Chengdu was a little surprised. He had not expected the competition inside the Hongji class to be this intense. Morek then told Chengdu that the seat ranking battle for the month had already ended, so he would have to challenge someone directly if he wanted a seat number. Hearing that, Chengdu immediately asked whether the seat ranking came with any benefits besides being able to sit during class, because that would decide how much effort he needed to use. Once he heard that seat numbers directly determined resource treatment, Chengdu naturally decided to challenge for a higher rank. Before long, combat class officially began, and the teacher told Chengdu that he had 3 challenge attempts. Chengdu directly stated that he wanted to challenge the 10th ranked student. The other students in the Hongji class were instantly shocked. He was challenging such a high rank right from the start. The teacher was also slightly surprised and did not think highly of Chengdu's chances. Although his martial technique level was impressive, his life intensity was still far too low. The teacher had thought he was a steady person, but he had not expected him to be so eager to prove himself. Letting him suffer a little might be good, but the teacher had no idea that Chengdu was not trying to prove anything. He only wanted resources. 10th place received 50% more resources than 11th, while the difference among the top 10 was not that big, so there was no need to challenge any higher. And the 10th ranked student just happened to be Peng Hu, the same guy who had tried to cause trouble earlier. When he saw Chengdu choose him, Peng Hu was overjoyed. He finally had a chance to teach Chengdu a proper lesson. The teacher immediately told him to put on his protective gear and enter the arena. As the match began, Peng Hu threatened that Chengdu would soon be hugging his leg and crying for mercy. Chengdu simply snorted and told him they would see about that. The next second, a massive hammerhead came smashing toward Chengdu. Everyone thought the result was already decided. After all, even a 0.1 difference in life intensity could affect the outcome, let alone the fact that Chengdu was a full level lower than Peng Hu. There was no way he could react in time. But the teacher sensed something was wrong. Wasn't Chengdu's life intensity only 5.1 yesterday? How had it reached 5.2 after just one day? Peng Hu also believed he had already won. He smashed his hammer down viciously at Chengdu, but the next instant, he suddenly felt something was off. Chengdu had somehow appeared beneath him. Chengdu raised the corner of his mouth, and a sharp streak of swordlight instantly struck Peng Hu's abdomen. Peng Hu was sent flying on the spot, leaving everyone completely stunned. The teacher rushed forward and grabbed Chengdu's hand. Seeing how skillfully Chengdu had used Azure Dragon Thrust, he anxiously asked whether Chengdu had already mastered a first-tier martial technique to perfection. When Chengdu nodded, the teacher was shaken to his core. Raising it past 90% overnight was simply terrifying. After forcing himself to calm down, the teacher announced that Chengdu had won the seat challenge. Only then did everyone finally come back to their senses. and waves of discussion broke out around them. Even Morek had not expected Chen Du to be such a late-rising genius. The teacher asked Chen Du whether he wanted to keep challenging, but Chen Du simply shook his head. Morek immediately stepped forward and asked Chen Du for his contact information. As for Pan Hu, he hugged Chen Du's leg tightly and cried that he was the real clown, begging Chen Du not to take anything he had said earlier seriously. Chen Du's shocking performance in combat class soon made the teacher drag him to the principal's office. The teacher immediately asked whether Everest Martial Arts University and Taishan Martial Arts University still had any special admission slots left. Seeing the principal's confusion, the teacher quickly explained that he wanted Chen Du to take the special admission route. The principal found it difficult because the 8 elite universities had extremely high standards. At the very least, they required students to have several martial techniques mastered to perfection. The teacher did not want to explain too much. Instead of talking, he thought it would be better to let the principal see it for himself. So he immediately pushed Chen Du toward the testing wooden dummy beside them. Chen Du took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, his gaze turned sharp, and his sword moved with his will. With one Azure Dragon thrust, he slashed straight toward the testing wooden dummy. In the next instant, the dummy's head flew off and landed directly in the principal's hands. Chen Du felt a little embarrassed and said he seemed to have broken the testing equipment. But the teacher did not care about that at all. He said Chen Du was absolutely a combat genius, and his instincts would not be wrong. After teaching for so many years, this was the first time he had ever seen a student who seemed to have gone through countless life and death battles. The principal nodded firmly and decided on the spot to focus resources on training Chen Du. As for special admission, he would handle the negotiations. As long as Chen Du could take a top 3 spot in the 100-city championship, special admission would basically be guaranteed. At this moment, Chen Du finally spoke up and asked what the benefits of special admission actually were. The teacher explained that to enter one of the 8 elite universities through the normal college entrance exam, a student's life intensity had to be at least level 6.5. With Chen Du's current life intensity, he simply did not meet the requirement. But if he took the special admission route, then as long as he mastered a first-tier martial technique to perfection 1 month before the exam, the teachers from those martial arts universities would conduct a special assessment for him. Hearing this, Chen Du asked whether besides special admission to those 2 schools, he could still enter another martial arts university through the regular exam. In truth, he wanted to go to Huangshan Martial Arts University more. The teacher was a little confused because the resources offered by the 8 elite martial arts universities were mostly similar. However, 2 years ago, Chen Du had personally experienced an invasion from another world, and he had also heard about the tragedies 6 years ago, when Yunlei district was ambushed by the giant race. Although rescue forces arrived in time, hundreds of thousands of people still died in that attack. That was why Chen Du wanted to protect his family more than anything. Huangshan Martial Arts University was not far from Liangcheng, so if his family ever faced danger, he could rush back in time. The teacher never expected Chen Du's reason to be this, and his appreciation for Chen Du's character grew even stronger. Unfortunately, the principal told Chen Du that it would not work. Once he took the special admission route, he would have to sign a contract binding him to that school. The teacher also began persuading Chen Du to take the special admission path. As long as he achieved a good result in the 100-city championship, he would definitely get in, so he should not gamble with his own future. Chen Du nodded without arguing, and only said he would think about it carefully. But in reality, he had no intention of giving up. There was still 1 month left before the exam, so Chen Du decided to use pills and see whether he could speed up the growth of his life intensity. With that in mind, he headed straight for the Technology Martial Hall. Across the entire high martial civilization, 3 top forces guarded humanity's future. The Limit Martial Hall, which confronted alien civilizations. The Technology Martial Hall, which raised humanity's overall strength. And the Martial Artist Alliance, which maintained public order among martial artists. The founder of the Technology Martial Hall was none other than Duragus, known as the 2nd strongest person in the world. Looking at the receptionist walking over, Chen Du directly said he wanted to buy 3 boxes of Thunder Chi blood pills. The young receptionist explained that this was a special medicine and could not be purchased directly. Thunder Chi blood pills were extremely fierce, and martial artists who failed to meet the requirements could easily injure themselves after taking them, so he had to pass a test first. The machine in front of him would simulate the strength of the pill by releasing electric currents. As long as Chen Du could endure it, he would be allowed to buy them. But when the receptionist activated the machine, the electric current had no effect on Chen Du at all. The young woman was stunned on the spot. She hurriedly reported it to the technical department, suspecting the machine was broken. but it did not affect Chengdu's right to purchase the pills. After that, Chengdu went to the martial arts training room the school had prepared especially for him. The instructions on the pills stated that 1 pill should be taken per day, with 10 consecutive days forming one cycle, and that at most, 3 pills could be taken in a single day. However, taking 3 pills at once would cause 5 times the pain of taking 1 pill, and the medicinal effect would only begin to weaken after 1 to 2 months of continuous use. The machine test in the store only simulated 50% of the pain from 1 pill. Taking 3 pills at once would be 10 times stronger than that test, but to Chengdu, this was still nothing. The next instant, a powerful electric current erupted from within Chengdu's body, deeply tempering him from head to toe. The bone-piercing pain lasted a full 30 minutes, leaving Chengdu's entire body almost numb. But the result was just as satisfying. His life intensity rose directly from level 5.2 to level 5.3. This made Chengdu stop resisting the idea completely. As long as he could reach level 6.5, what was a little pain? With the school's subsidy, he could keep taking them for another 55 days. From the looks of it, he had to fight his way into the top 2 of the 100 City Championship. Only then could he earn enough prize money to keep developing quickly. However, the side effects of using Thunder Chi blood pills for the first time were still a little severe. Because of the thunder power ravaging his body, Chengdu was temporarily unable to move. But just because his body was exhausted did not mean his mind had to stop. So Chengdu continued entering the crystal space to train his mental power. Inside the crystal space, he fought the green skin giants for the entire night. Although he still failed to defeat them for now, his mental power improved quite a lot. As the side effects of the pills gradually faded, Chengdu returned to class and saw a beautiful teacher named Ya, who was responsible for teaching mental power. This was a course unique to the Hongji class, and only students with mental power above level 2 were qualified to study it. During class, teacher Ya explained the importance of mental power. It could help martial artists master techniques with half the effort. Furthermore, it could awaken the scattered strength throughout the body and gather it together, allowing a martial artist to unleash even greater explosive power. This ability to make every bit of strength in the body perform its proper function was called mental power attachment. At this point, teacher Ya reminded everyone that before mental power reached level 10, the amount of physical strength that mental power attachment could mobilize was extremely limited, so they did not need to spend too much time on it. For now, raising life intensity was still the priority. Next, she prepared to test everyone's mental power. She would use the short flute in her hand to play a fatigue tune and measure their mental endurance. Since Chengdu had only just joined the Hongji class and had never received any systematic mental power training, Ya worried that he might be knocked down instantly. To protect his pride, she told him he could sit out this test. But Chengdu shook his head slightly and refused. Seeing this, Ya stopped trying to persuade him. She simply assumed he was a proud young man and planned to comfort him privately after he failed. As teacher Ya began playing the flute, a strange pressure flowed through the music and entered everyone's minds. It felt as if a strange enemy had suddenly appeared inside their spiritual sea, and that enemy was using a form of mental hypnosis that felt almost like a physical attack. But at this moment, teacher Ya was truly shocked. She never expected Chengdu to look so relaxed. He did not even frown, which completely exceeded her expectations. So she raised the mental pressure by another level, wanting to see just how long Chengdu could last. This made things miserable for the other students. The sudden increase in mental pressure left them suffering, and most of them could barely hold on. But when teacher Ya's gaze swept back to Chengdu, she was shocked once again, because Chengdu still looked completely fine. Ya knew about Chengdu's family situation. His family could not possibly afford mental power tools, which meant Chengdu also had extraordinary natural talent in mental power. As for Peng Hu, who had already been defeated by Chengdu, seeing Chengdu stand so firmly only made him even more determined to latch onto Chengdu. At the same time, even Morek, the #1 student in the Hongji class, had already collapsed onto the ground. By now, teacher Ya had already raised the pressure to level 6 mental power, so one could imagine how shocked she was. With Chengdu's talent, if he had been born into a better background, he might even have had a chance to challenge the 3 top martial arts universities. But teacher Ya did not realize that she had already reached level 7 mental power. Seeing that Chengdu still had not fallen, she simply raised it by another level. Inside Chengdu's consciousness space, the enemy he faced suddenly received an epic level enhancement. After several exchanges, Chengdu finally could no longer withstand the mental pressure. In the real world, he could not help but gasp for breath. But teacher Ya Dai was already shocked beyond words. His mental power was actually higher than his life intensity, which was nothing short of a miracle. On top of that, his martial technique talent was extremely high. He could absolutely take a path focused on resisting mental attacks, then use his powerful body to tear enemies apart. He was practically the perfect warrior to fight the Great Eye civilization. She immediately reported this situation to the principal. After hearing it, the principal was completely numb. Just how many talents was Chen Du still hiding? With the potential Chen Du had shown so far, he might even become a level 20 skyborn martial artist in the future, a 1 in 10,000 existence. With talent like this, even sending him to one of the 8 elite universities would be wasting him. What truly matched Chen Du's potential should be the 3 top martial arts universities. Coincidentally, the principal had just received news that after the 100 City Championship, Black Dragon Martial Arts University, one of the 3 top martial arts universities, would hold a freshman selection in Cyber City. No matter what, Chen Du had to sign up. So Chen Du was called over by teacher Ling Yun, who personally explained the situation to him. Chen Du did not know much about the 3 top martial arts universities, because they did not recruit through the normal college entrance exam. They only selected geniuses with the potential to become skyborn martial artists, and warriors at that level were already extraordinary existences. To enter one of the 3 top martial arts universities, a student had to reach level 9.9 life intensity, and the middle stage of first-tier martial technique mastery. For high school students, reaching the martial technique requirement was still somewhat possible, but reaching level 9.9 life intensity was something only the extremely wealthy could achieve by constantly using chi blood medicines. After hearing this, Chen Du still did not give up on the Black Dragon Martial Arts University selection. Teacher Ling Yun fully agreed with his mindset and told him to treat Black Dragon Martial Arts University as his goal for now. After all, the 8 elite universities were already his safety net, but the immediate priority was still the 100 City Championship. That night, Chen Du returned home. His younger sister felt more and more that something about him had changed. His figure seemed better, his face looked more handsome, and he felt even harder to read than before. After coming home, Chen Du also made up his mind and told his parents that for the next month, he would stay at school to train and improve his strength. His parents were worried, since he had often fallen unconscious before. However, they heard that Chen Du had already entered the Hongji class and would be participating in the 100 City Championship. As a result, they suppressed their worries and chose to fully support his decision. For the next month, Chen Du planned to spend all his time in the school training room and focus completely on improving himself. So right from the start, he activated 5 times gravity, which was equivalent to the weight of 15 adult elephants pressing down on his body. Under this pressure, he fought the training robot in front of him while constantly adapting to the gravity-suppressed environment. During the training, the robot also pointed out the mistakes he made in real combat. From then on, every day, once Chen Du adapted to the current gravity level, he would slowly increase the gravity multiplier and continue training. Whenever his body and mind were exhausted and pushed to the limit, he would sit down cross-legged. Then he would use the Void Immortal Visualization method to keep improving his mental power. And when he slept at night, he would enter the mysterious crystal space again, fighting the invading monsters and continuing to sharpen his martial techniques. After undergoing gravity training, Chen Du could clearly feel that his control over his body had improved greatly whenever he returned to a normal environment. His movement also became increasingly agile, and even when facing the giants inside the crystal space, he became more and more comfortable. As long as he continued training steadily, reaching the top 3 in the 100 City Championship was very possible, and he might even be able to fight for first place. Time quickly passed, and 1 month later, Chen Du and the others arrived in Haicheng City. Teacher Ling Yun brought the 3 of them there. Suddenly, an argument caught Chen Du's attention. The furious-looking guy was Wu Zhang, a participant from the Lu Cheng team. He was angry because he had clearly arrived on time, yet the staff refused to let him sign in. He thought the staff were deliberately targeting him and even looked ready to draw his blade if they failed to give him an explanation. Chen Du could sense that this man's blade intent was extremely strong, and his martial technique level was probably not below his own. Just then, a purple-haired girl with an outstanding figure and stunning looks walked out. She told the staff to let Wu Zhang sign in, while her own teammate would forfeit. The moment the others in the hotel saw her, they all cried out in surprise that the Sea Princess had arrived. Morik seemed to know her well, and introduced her to Chen Du. Her name was Zhou Xiaogu, nicknamed the Sea Princess, and she was the only daughter of the principal of Haicheng No. 1 High School. Whether it was family background, wealth, reputation, or personal talent, she was top tier in every aspect, a true favored daughter of heaven. But for some reason, Chengdu found her face strangely familiar. Soon, he remembered. Wasn't she the sneaky girl who had ambushed him in his first virtual battle? The nuke-selling girl who had taught him a lesson? He had not expected her to be using her real face instead of customizing her appearance. This was also the first time Chengdu had seen such a stunning beauty in reality. Fortunately, Chengdu had been wearing a pig head mask back then, so she probably would not recognize him. And back then, Zhou Xiaogu's martial technique level had already been one step ahead of his, reaching first-tier perfection. He wondered how strong she had become now. After that, Chengdu and the other three arrived at the lounge, where teacher Ling Yun began explaining the rules of the 100 City Championship. The competition would last 3 days and consist of 3 rounds. The first round, held tomorrow, would be the badge scramble, and the battlefield would be a forest. Within 13 hours, participants had to obtain 2 badges, one marked high and the other marked martial, then carry them to the finish line. The number of people who passed would depend on how many members of each team reached the finish line. There were 50 high badges and 50 martial badges, meaning at most 50 teams could pass. So the first round would eliminate half the participants directly. The second round would be a one-on-one elimination tournament with very little rest time. 150 contestants had to fight down to the strongest 10 within a single day to enter the third round. Opponents would be randomly matched, but teammates from the same squad would not be paired against each other. His teammates actually breathed a sigh of relief. At least they would not have to fight a monster like Chengdu head-on. The final third round was also called the Top 10 Battle. Anyone who made it that far had basically already won, because the top 10 would all receive bonus points and cash rewards. As for whether they could reach the top 3, that would depend on their condition during the matches. With 3 straight days of continuous fighting, very little rest, and the possibility of injuries along the way, the person who ultimately took first place might not be the strongest individual fighter, but they would definitely be the most well-rounded overall. Finally, teacher Ling Yun added one more rule. They absolutely could not kill anyone. This rule applied not only to the competition, but also to real life, and it was something they had to remember forever. Their true enemies were alien civilizations, and their blades must never be pointed at their own comrades. When the time came, the team leaders would also enter the battlefield. Aside from secretly protecting the students, if a teacher was forced to intervene, it would mean that contestant was eliminated. So all they had to do was believe in themselves and give it everything they had. The next day, all participants wore special uniforms that limited their life intensity to the same level. Then arrived outside a forest. The principal, Haicheng No. 1 High School, who was also one of the organizers of the 100 City Championship, began explaining the forest in front of them. This was a special mystic realm, unique to Haicheng, formed from a dimensional rift created hundreds of years ago during the collision of the 9 planets. Humans called places like this spirit realms, and this place was Linlang Forest, a level 1 spirit realm with the lowest difficulty. The realm itself was extremely stable. It had even been personally certified by Rhyme, the 3rd strongest person in the world and the founder of the Martial Artist Alliance. So there was absolutely no problem with its safety. But that did not mean there was no risk of death inside. As for Wu Zhang, who was alone, Principal Zhou said he would arrange suitable teammates for him. Wu Zhang still looked just as annoyed as before. The spirit realm finally opened. Everyone only needed to step into the teleportation array to be sent to one of 1,000 random locations inside Linlan Forest. Soon, all the teams participating in the 100 City Championship were teleported into Linlang Forest. This was Chengdu's first time entering a spirit realm, and even he could not help being shocked by the scenery before him. Morek then asked which marked point they should head to next. Chengdu pointed at the nearest red mark and decided to try their luck there first, because Principal Zhou had added one final note. Although there were 300 marked points on the map, only 100 of them were real. Morek and Liu Bo had no objections. The 3 of them quickly arrived at the marked location. Their luck was excellent. This marked point really did contain a badge. But at that moment, Chengdu immediately pulled Liu Bo aside. The next second, 2 arrows struck precisely where Liu Bo had just been standing. The attackers were the Kun City team, from a city more developed than Liancheng. Generally speaking, the more developed a city was, the stronger its students would be. The broadcast feed outside immediately switched to this scene. In fact, the principal of Liancheng and Principal Cao from Kun City were good friends. Principal Cao even teased Principal Liang, saying he would pay for his flight home that night. But the final result might not go the way he expected. Inside the spirit realm, Li Yuan from Kun City saw that Chengdu refused to hand over the badge, so he shouted that he would make their team the first one eliminated. Morek and Liu Bo were about to make a move, but Chengdu signaled that there was no need because he would handle this himself. On the other side, Li Yuan had already unleashed the third move of the Comet Spear technique, burn the chin and boil the crane. But Chen Du blocked the spear strike easily with his sword. Li Yuan was stunned. He increased the strength in his hands again, but Chen Du still did not move an inch. Chen Du's gaze sharpened slightly. Level 9 mental power instantly attached itself to his sword. The first move of the flowing light sword technique. Draw the ground as a prison. Sword light flashed across all 3 members of the Kun City team. The other 2 lost consciousness on the spot. Only Li Yuan remained, gasping in fear, because in that instant, he felt as if he had been only 1 step away from death. Even if he still wanted to keep fighting, his body was trembling so badly that he could no longer control it. Chen Du was about to send Li Yuan flying completely with the next strike. But suddenly, a single finger stopped his sword. The person who appeared was the Kun City team's leading teacher. Looking at Chen Du, he could not help praising him, saying he was very good. Li Yuan knew exactly what it meant when his teacher intervened. Unwilling to accept it, he still tried to argue that he could keep fighting, but the teacher cut him off directly, firmly stating that he would not survive Chen Du's second strike. At the same time, the teacher kept glancing at Chen Du, silently thinking that this boy would definitely become someone impossible to ignore in the future. Ling Yun had truly found a treasure this time. In the end, Li Yuan still wanted to know Chen Du's name. Chen Du simply said that he would be the first place winner the day after tomorrow, and Li Yuan would know then. Meanwhile, in the audience stands, the tables had completely turned. Principal Liang laughed loudly and modestly said it was a good match, then asked Principal Cao what time his flight home was tonight, because he would pay for it. Elsewhere in the viewing area, someone laughed and said this year was impressive, with 4 contestants who had reached first-tier perfection. But the person beside him corrected him, saying no, only 3 had truly been confirmed so far. At this moment, some people in the audience were also confused. The Liangcheng team had clearly collected both badges, so why were they still not heading to the finish line? In reality, Chen Du's goal was simple: to win the championship and the 1 million prize. He had to eliminate Wu Zhang during the first round. The seeded contestants this time were Zhou Xiaogu and Chu Zhongtian from the Haicheng team, and Wu Zhan from the Lucheng team. The Haicheng team had 2 strong fighters, making them difficult to take down for now. So ambushing Wu Zhang gave Chen Du a better chance. Liu Bo was a little confused. Wouldn't that also be helping the Haicheng team? In truth, it would not. If they did not remove Wu Zhang first, they might not even make it into the top 3. After all, the second round would avoid matching teammates against each other. But since Haicheng was hosting this competition, there was no guarantee they would not deliberately arrange for Chen Du and Wu Zhang to face each other early, allowing the Haicheng team to advance smoothly. At that point, whether Chen Du won or Wu Zhang won in the second round, the winner would still have to fight both strong members of the Haicheng team back-to-back in a third round. Since all of them had reached first-tier perfection, fighting 3 of them in a row would be impossible. After hearing Chen Du's analysis, Morek and Liu Bo both felt it made sense. Still, this operation could fail, and they might even be eliminated in the first round. But the 2 of them also knew their own limits. They had come to the 100 City Championship, mostly for the experience. The real problem now was how to find Wu Zhang. Chen Du already had an idea. He had observed Wu Zhan before, and with that arrogant personality and powerful strength, Wu Zhan would likely head for the area with the most marked points. So they only needed to wait for him there. Just as the 3 of them arrived at a cliff, a wolf howl suddenly caught Chen Du's attention. Below them, a giant wolf was fighting another team. It was actually a BB wolf, a monster Chen Du had seen before inside the mysterious space. But he had checked the alien race encyclopedia before, and it recorded every monster humanity had discovered so far. The monsters inside the crystal space were not listed at all. Yet now, he was seeing the same monster inside a spirit realm. Could it be that all the monsters in the crystal space actually came from spirit realms? But at that moment, Chen Du heard the girl below constantly blaming Wu Zhang. Meanwhile, her 2 teammates were already struggling to hold back the BB wolf. Chen Du made his move without hesitation. A brilliant streak of sword light flashed past the terrified girl's eyes, and the vicious BB wolf was instantly split in 2. Chen Du calmly turned to the girl and asked whether she had seen Wu Zhang. Her teammate quickly nodded, saying that while they were searching for badges, they had indeed seen Wu Zhang fighting several monsters like this, only to get caught up in the battle themselves. Chen Du immediately asked where Wu Zhan had fought those giant wolves. They quickly pointed in one direction. This made Chen Du a little suspicious, because there were not many marked points in that direction. Why would Wu Zhang go there? When things felt this out of place, there was usually a catch, but they still had no choice but to check it out. At the same time, Chen Du warned Morek and Liu Bo that they had to follow his instructions later, because he had an inexplicable bad feeling. The two nodded and did not refuse. And the result was exactly as Chen Du expected. His sixth sense was right. The three of them had been tricked. After chasing all the way there, they found no trace of Wu Zhang at all. Instead, they had walked straight into a BB wolf den. The goal of the three people they had just rescued was obvious. They wanted to use the wolf pack to eliminate Chen Du's team, then come back and pick up their badges. There were at least 20 wolves here, and Chen Du had fought them before, inside the mysterious space. He knew they absolutely could not bleed, because once the BB wolves smelled blood, they would instantly go berserk. So he immediately warned Morek and Liu Bo not to get injured no matter what. The broadcast quickly showed the three of them trapped inside the wolf den, and everyone believed they were about to be eliminated. 20 BB wolves above level 6 life intensity were enough to make even the Sea Princess team struggle to break through. The middle-aged man sitting beside the mayor of Haicheng even declared that their chance of breaking out was less than 1%. Mayor Shi had not expected the success rate to be that low. In reality, finding the badges this time was not as simple as it seemed. If students followed the navigation route directly to search for badges and head to the finish line, they would inevitably run into wolf packs. Back inside the spirit realm, Chen Du had already taken the initiative to draw the attention of most of the BB wolves. This way, Morek and Liu Bo would not be surrounded and injured. Then the 4 moves of the flowing light sword technique continued to unfold in Chen Du's hands. Because he had killed these wolves countless times inside the crystal space, he understood their habits, movements, and coordination perfectly. But the situation on Morek and Liu Bo's side was not looking good. Although Chen Du could unleash level 7 strength, there were simply too many wolves, and he could not spare a hand to support them. To completely deal with these BB wolves, his strength and speed were still just a little short. This made Chen Du clearly realize that if he could not reduce the wolf pack to single digits within 2 minutes, they would lose any chance of breaking out. So his sword had to become faster. Even faster. Fast enough to kill every wolf in the pack. Chen Du immersed himself in the fight, constantly pushing his sword speed higher. But just then, Liu Bo suddenly cried out that Morek was injured, instantly breaking Chen Du's focus. Morek looked full of guilt and could only whisper an apology. Hearing this, Chen Du immediately shouted that the BB wolves were about to go berserk, telling Liu Bo and Morek to leave first. The next second, he stepped forward and appeared directly in front of the berserk BB wolf. With one strike, he pinned it firmly to the ground. Liu Bo knew they could not drag Chen Du down right now, so he quickly pulled Morek away and retreated first. Fortunately, once BB wolves entered a berserk state, they lost their reason and would only attack the living creatures in front of them. Chen Du had already faced 30 berserk BB wolves inside the crystal space before, so now he was simply experiencing it all over again. But unexpectedly, one of the BB wolves suddenly unleashed level 7 strength. At the same time, inside the auditorium of Haicheng No. 1 High School, quite a few people could not help feeling secretly pleased. After all, if a sudden dark horse like Chen Du fell here, it would mean one less powerful opponent for Haicheng No. 1 High School in the fight for the championship. Mayor Shui, however, was surprised that Chen Du still had not come out. The person beside him was even more shocked. He had originally thought Chen Du was the child of some powerful family, only to discover that Chen Du was just an ordinary student from a family that had never even left Liangcheng. On top of that, Chen Du's flowing light sword technique was not perfect yet, meaning he had not truly reached first tier 99% mastery. And yet, he could predict the BB wolves' attacks as if he could see the future. His way of fighting felt exactly like someone who had crawled out of a pile of corpses on the front line. But Chen Du's file was completely ordinary, and that made him even more terrifying. It meant his combat talent was likely insanely high. Back inside the spirit realm, Chen Du continued fighting while looking for opportunities, specifically targeting the weaker BB wolves. He tried to kill them in one strike to reduce the size of the pack as quickly as possible. But as the battle dragged on, Chen Du's stamina was also being consumed rapidly. Gradually, he began to get injured, and more wounds appeared on his body. Chen Du knew very well that if this continued, elimination would be his only outcome, and a wave of unwillingness instantly surged inside him. His cheat, the mysterious space, had only just begun to show its power, and everything was finally moving in a better direction. If he fell here, how could he face the expectations of his family and teachers? This was not just a competition. This was a turning point in his life. So, Chen Du absolutely could not fall here. His sword had to become faster. even faster. Suddenly, something seemed to break through, but a BB wolf had already reached his back. At this moment, teacher Ling Yun, who was watching from the side, was preparing to intervene. He silently sighed that if Chengdu had not trusted others so easily, he would not have ended up in this situation. This could be treated as a lesson. But the next second, teacher Ling Yun froze because he felt that something about Chengdu had changed. The flowing light sword technique now flowed effortlessly in Chengdu's hands, no longer bound by fixed moves. Every strike followed the path of the wind, naturally. 2 BB wolves were instantly slain by him. This meant Chengdu's flowing light sword technique had finally broken through from first tier 98% to the perfect first tier 99%. In the audience, Principal Cal was stunned. He had never expected Chengdu to break through in the middle of battle, and he had thought both schools would be going home together tonight. Elsewhere, the middle-aged man who had judged that Chengdu would fail stood frozen in shock, because the power of Chengdu's flowing light sword technique no longer looked like ordinary first-tier 99% strength and speed. He suspected that Chengdu's mental power might already be close to level 10. For someone at the quasi-martial artist stage, to possess this level of mental power was outrageously rare. Once mental power reached level 10, it would undergo a qualitative transformation, and the soul would evolve into a martial soul. That was a sign of skyborn martial artist potential. Both of them were deeply shaken by Chengdu's excellence. As for everyone else, there was no need to even mention their reactions. Meanwhile, inside the spirit realm, the 3 people who had lied earlier finally exposed their true purpose. This entire plan had been Zhang Shuai's scheme. He had deliberately lured Chengdu's team into the wolf den to steal the badges from them. As long as Chengdu's team failed to defeat the wolf beasts, their leading teacher would step in to rescue them, and the badges would be left behind. Then Zhang Shuai's group could immediately collect both badges. When they arrived at the location, they indeed saw wolf corpses everywhere, with the badges placed above the bodies. But Zhang Shuai suddenly felt that something was wrong. Just as his teammate was about to reach for the badges, Zhang Shuai shouted for him to stop, because the Liangcheng team had not been eliminated at all. His teammate did not believe him. But in the very next second, a streak of swordlight sliced across his palm. The lying trio was instantly stunned. They never expected Chengdu's team to actually be completely fine. Chengdu looked at Zhang Shuai and asked how he could tell they had not been eliminated. Zhang Shuai trembled as he explained that all the wounds on the wolf beasts had been caused by sharp weapons, while leading teachers did not carry weapons. That actually reminded Chengdu of something. He had no idea what weapon teacher Ling Yun used, and he had basically ignored that detail before. It seemed he needed to be more careful in the future. Next, Chengdu asked them again whether they had really seen Wu Zhang. As long as they told the truth, Chengdu could give them the badges, because he only wanted to fight Wu Zhang. This part, they had not lied about. They had simply met Wu Zhang in the opposite direction. And at the time, Wu Zhang was heading toward the star marker on the map, before running into the wolf beasts midway. This made Chengdu realize that there seemed to be something wrong with the official route. But now that he had the information, the 3 of them were no longer useful. It was time for them to leave the stage. Only then did Zhang Shuai realize that Chengdu had played him too. Chengdu simply snorted. This was just giving them a taste of their own medicine. Their leading teacher appeared at that moment, and the first thing he did was accuse Chengdu's team of having no martial ethics. Even the good-tempered Morik was furious when he heard that. Chengdu replied with disdain that this was called strategy and deception. After that, Morik asked Chengdu whether in his current condition he still planned to ambush Wu Zhang. Chengdu had consumed too much strength fighting the BB wolves, so going after Wu Zhang was impossible now. He had confirmed the location with Zhang Shuai only to avoid running into a perfection-level expert. What they needed to do now was follow Chengdu's planned route, head to the moon marker, submit their badges, and advance to the next round. Seeing their confusion, Chengdu decided to clarify. He roughly explained the design of this competition. Aside from running into other opponents, collecting badges itself was not especially dangerous, but that did not mean the round was just testing luck. The real danger was the route to the finish line. The entire Linlang forest had been carefully designed. Star markers represented wolf dens, and once teams tried to avoid dangerous routes, their paths would overlap, greatly increasing the chance of running into other teams. So this was a carefully designed competition. Without enough strength, unless a team was insanely lucky, even collecting both badges would not guarantee they could reach the moon marker that represented the finish line. But just then, someone suddenly walked out of the bushes. It was Kru Zhongtian, the other perfection-level expert from the Haicheng team. He raised an eyebrow slightly and immediately sensed that Chen Du was also a perfection-level expert. Hu Zhongtian was just about to draw his weapon and fight Chen Du, but Zhou Xiaogu stopped him. Her reason was simple. There were a large number of baby wolf corpses nearby, which meant Chen Du had just fought a major battle against the wolf pack. Fighting him now would be an unfair victory. The main reason was that Zhou Xiaogu was confident enough. Whether it was Chen Du or Wu Zhang, she believed she would eliminate them in the end. Haicheng's team had won 9 championships in a row, and their 10th title was basically guaranteed. Seeing this, Liu Bo could not help sighing that Zhou Xiaogu really had the bearing of a chivalrous hero. Chen Du almost wanted to complain. If she truly had that kind of heroic bearing, then who was the sneaky girl who ambushed him in the virtual battle? As her teammate, Hu Dongtian naturally understood Zhou Xiaogu better than Chen Du did. She was absolutely the type to finish someone off when they were weak. The reason Zhou Xiaogu did not attack now was simple. She could not let her public image collapse, especially since this was being broadcast live. That night, after passing the first round, Chen Du returned to the hotel. He knew he still could not rest, because his mental power was already at level 9. As long as he killed every monster in the 7th wave, he could raise it to level 10. Once his mental power underwent that transformation, winning first place would be practically guaranteed. Soon, the 7th wave of monsters arrived, and the crystal space notification rang out. The two-faced blade bears were coming, with level 7 life intensity. The next second, a pair of massive bear claws came smashing down toward Chen Du. Chen Du did not dodge. He wanted to test just how strong it was first. After feeling that overwhelming power, he immediately understood that he could not clash with it head-on. In an instant, he flashed behind the two-faced blade bear, preparing to ambush and kill it. But unexpectedly, the two-faced blade bear truly lived up to its name. There was another face on the back of its head. Chen Du's ambush naturally failed. In that case, he could only kill it from the front. But when his blade slashed across its neck, he could not cut through at all, which meant the head was not its weakness. So, Chen Du switched targets and attacked its heart. But the two-faced blade bear still made no attempt to defend. It even used that chance to attack Chen Du, proving that the heart was not its weakness either. But Chen Du soon noticed one detail. Every time it attacked, its tail would instinctively swing toward a safe position. So Chen Du deliberately exposed an opening and pretended to attack its head. While drawing its attention, he instantly leapt several times and arrived beside its tail, then slashed down with his sword. The two-faced blade bear had no time to dodge, and its tail was cut off directly. Its life aura immediately began weakening. Now that Chen Du knew its weakness, the rest would be much easier. Meanwhile, inside another hotel, the Haicheng team's leading teacher repeatedly brought up Chen Du, reminding Zhou Xiaogu and the others that he was very likely the biggest obstacle on their road to the championship, especially after Chen Du had cleared a medium-sized wolf den by himself. Zhou Xiaogu was surprised. Had Chen Du already reached the first tier limit? The leading teacher shook his head, but said Chen Du had definitely entered the intuitive mastery stage. As for whether he was at the level of form or intent, that was still unknown. Hu Zhongtian was shocked. Didn't that mean Chen Du was at the same stage as Zhou Xiaogu? The leading teacher looked at Zhou Xiaogu and asked how confident she would be if she had to face Chen Du. Zhou Xiaogu gave the same answer as before. This year, Haicheng's 10th consecutive championship had no suspense. The second round of the 100 City Championship officially began, and Principal Zhou started explaining the rules. Aside from being one-on-one eliminations, life intensity would be uniformly limited to level 5, and teammates would not be matched against each other. The matches would continue until 150 contestants were reduced to 10 finalists, and the system would dynamically arrange the order based on each round's battle duration. The faster someone won in the previous round, the earlier they would fight in the next round, giving them as much rest time as possible. Chen Du's sequence number was 16. Soon, the first round matchups were revealed, and everyone present could not help crying out in surprise. Because the very first match was Zhou Xiaogu versus Wu Zhang, and both of them were top championship favorites. No one expected them to clash in the very first battle. Everyone instantly grew excited. Could the championship be decided in the opening match? But some people disagreed. After all, Chen Du had just cleared a medium-sized wolf den alone, making him another terrifying dark horse. Wu Zhang looked excited instead. He had wanted to fight Zhou Xiaogu for a long time, because he kept hearing that she was invincible among her peers, and he refused to believe it. Zhou Xiaogu smiled faintly and said he would understand soon enough. Holding her dagger, she casually spun it through a few beautiful flourishes. In the next instant, the two of them collided, For a moment, they were evenly matched. At this moment, the big screen displayed both fighters' weapon mastery index. On the arena, Wu Zhang slashed a streak of sword light straight toward Zhou Xiaogu. Zhou Xiaogu flashed aside and dodged it with ease. But Wu Zhang seemed to have predicted where she would dodge, instantly closing the distance and appearing right in front of her. Zhou Xiaogu immediately supported herself with one hand on the ground, preparing to counterattack. Unexpectedly, Wu Zhang did not swing his sword down right away. Instead, he stayed on guard against Zhou Xiaogu's counter. Then he seized the moment while she was still in midair and slammed hard into her abdomen. As Zhou Xiaogu was knocked flying, Wu Zhang's sword strike followed right after her, and the martial technique index of this attack had reached first tier 99%. In other words, as long as Zhou Xiaogu took this hit, she would definitely lose her ability to fight. However, Zhou Xiaogu was not called invincible among her peers for nothing. Even while being knocked backward, she still managed to use a martial technique and forcibly change the path of Wu Zhang's slash. She even countered and injured Wu Zhang's shoulder. The brilliant fight made Chen Du watch without blinking, but it also confused him. Why could he not tell what their basic martial techniques were? At this moment, Zhou Xiaogu's counterattack officially began. The dagger in her hand moved like a sharp blade, one move flowing into the next, forcing Wu Zhang to struggle just to keep up. Teacher Ling Yun then explained it to Chen Du. Once a first-tier martial technique reached 99%, it would undergo a qualitative change, and the most important part was the final 1%. This stage was called intuitive mastery. Just like Zhou Xiaogu and Wu Zhang in the arena, her dagger no longer looked like a dagger, and his sword no longer looked like a sword. It was almost impossible to tell what their original martial techniques were. Intuitive mastery meant changing weapons, and still being able to use a completely different weapon to display one's original basic martial technique. Wu Zhang's basic technique was actually the whirlwind hammer technique. Yet he could use a light and flexible sword to imitate the four forms of the heavy, mountain-like hammer technique. This was the first step of intuitive mastery. Once someone reached this level, opponents could no longer easily identify their original martial technique. As for Zhou Xiaogu, her basic technique was the Saint King Staff technique. Wu Zhang used the second move of the whirlwind hammer technique, Guanyan's Tears, to create 3 clones. However, Zhou Xiaogu easily saw through his real body and pressed her dagger against his neck, or more accurately, against the 2 fingers he had used to protect his neck. The next second, Wu Zhang countered with the third move of the whirlwind hammer technique, 3 hammers of Lingdong. Zhou Xiaogu saw the flaw in this move and immediately thrust her dagger toward Wu Zhang's lower body. But this was actually a flaw Wu Zhang had deliberately exposed, just so he could grab Zhou Xiaogu's sharp blade. Then he brought his sword crashing down toward her, and this strike's martial technique index reached 99.9%, nearly at the quasi-limit. Thick martial technique smoke instantly rose across the arena. Everyone could not help worrying about Zhou Xiaogu, but in reality, just a few seconds earlier, Wu Zhang had believed he had already trapped Zhou Xiaogu, and that the title of Invincible among their generation would belong to him. Yet, he never expected Zhou Xiaogu to break free from his grip. Then she unleashed the 4th move of the Saint King Staff technique, Crushing Deluge. It was as if endless waves had instantly swallowed the entire arena. Facing that ocean-like attack, Wu Zhang was completely powerless to resist, and the martial technique index of this move had reached the first tier 100% limit. When the smoke cleared, the result shocked countless people present. The first tier limit was one of the 3 great thresholds for advancing into a skyborn martial artist. Zhou Xiaogu had achieved it at 17, and the last person to do so before 18 was Vivados, who is now the principal of one of the 8 elite universities. That alone showed just how valuable this achievement was, and Wu Zhang had no choice but to admit defeat. The district mayor could not help teasing the middle-aged man beside him, saying no wonder he claimed there were only 3 contestants with perfected martial techniques. It turned out his daughter had already reached the limit. Zhou Xiaogu's father replied with humble bragging, saying he had only found out about it last week. At the same time, the admissions office teachers in the audience were also observing in secret. However, since Zhou Xiaogu's father was a 3-star deacon of the Limit Martial Hall, she would most likely choose Black Dragon Martial Arts University. As for Wu Zhang, he had already been admitted early by Heavenly Phoenix Martial Arts University. The others could only sigh that Sealing Martial Arts University had moved too slowly. As their eyes shifted toward Chengdu, they became even more certain of one thing: they only wanted true geniuses. After that, match after match passed, and the audience gradually grew a little bored, until it was finally Chengdu's turn to enter the arena. and the entire crowd instantly became energized again. Everyone wanted to know what kind of amazing battle Chengdu, this dark horse, would show them next. Chengdu's opponent was Kuda Ren from the Wangqing team. Kuda Ren let out a deep sigh, saying Zhou Xiaogu and Wu Zhang were both too monstrous, so he could only aim for a top 10 spot. What he really meant was obvious. Chengdu was not his opponent. After all, Chengdu had cleared a wolf den alone yesterday and suffered serious injuries. How much strength could he possibly have left today? The next second, the two clashed head-on. Unexpectedly, Kuda Ren was not just talking big. He actually blocked Chengdu's sword. The big screen also showed that Kuda Ren's martial technique index had already surpassed first tier 90%, and only then did the audience realize another hidden dark horse had appeared. He was also the 5th student to display the potential of a perfected martial technique. Although Kuda Ren's martial technique index had reached first tier 96%, he was still far behind people like Zhou Xiaogu. Chengdu had no intention of wasting time with him, so he charged straight at him from the front. Kuda Ren gritted his teeth in anger. Just how much was Chengdu looking down on him? In his rage, Kuda Ren unleashed the 4th move of the Muramasa blade technique, Crescent Moon Heaven Pierce. Chengdu countered directly with the 2nd move of the flowing light sword technique, Golden Drums Resounding. The blade in Kuda Ren's hand was sent flying on the spot. Kuda Ren froze in disbelief. How could that kind of power be possible? At that moment, Chengdu's martial technique index had reached 99.3%. The next second, a streak of sword light flashed across Kuda Ren. This hidden dark horse, who had wanted to shock everyone, was ultimately silenced by Chengdu, the true dark horse. A teacher from the Keelin Martial Arts University admissions office was surprised. Chengdu's martial technique did not seem to have truly reached 99.3%. So, could this be the effect of mental power enhancement? But then, he secretly felt it was a pity. It would have been perfect if Chengdu's mental power had reached level 10, because that would allow his soul to transform into a martial soul. The Keelin class admission rules required either reaching level 11 life intensity before the age of 18, or possessing level 10 mental power and a first-tier limit martial technique. Meeting either condition would be enough to enter. Chengdu was still just a little short in both martial technique and mental power, but he was still an excellent seedling, so the teacher decided to speak with him that night. After a full day, the 2nd round of the 100 City Championship ended. By using the system's rest order rules, Chengdu successfully avoided Zhou Xiaogu and advanced to tomorrow's top 10 finals. After a full day of real combat, his life intensity rose by another 0.1, reaching level 5.9. Tonight, he would definitely wipe out those two-faced blade bears. Just then, his phone suddenly rang, interrupting Chengdu while he was fighting inside the crystal space. The call was from teacher Ling Yun, who said he needed to see him, and introduced him to teacher Yu and teacher He Peng from Keelin Martial Arts University's admissions office. The moment Chengdu heard Keelin Martial Arts University, he immediately became alert. After all, Keelin Martial Arts University was one of the world's 3 top martial arts universities, standing alongside Black Dragon Martial Arts University and Heavenly Phoenix Martial Arts University. The two teachers explained that they were responsible for recruiting students who could enter the Keelin class, as well as those who had the potential to enter it. The Keelin class was where the school concentrated its greatest resources, specially designed to cultivate the strongest skyborn martial artists. Hearing this, Chengdu was a little confused, because he did not seem to meet the admission requirements for a top university. Only then did teacher Yu realize that Chengdu did not know about hidden treasuries. It turned out that when a person became a martial artist, a hidden treasury would automatically open inside their body, allowing them to absorb starry sky energy, which would also increase their mental power. But before becoming a martial artist, if someone met one of the admission conditions, they could open 2 hidden treasuries at the same time. If both their martial technique and mental power met the requirements, they could even open 3 hidden treasuries. There were 10 hidden treasuries in total, and they were equivalent to passive skills that provided attribute bonuses. So naturally, the more one opened, the better. Only then did Chengdu understand why level 10 mental power, first tier limit martial technique, and reaching level 11 life intensity before 18 were so important. Teacher, you smiled and explained that anyone who could open 2 hidden treasuries before becoming a martial artist could already be called a genius, while 3 hidden treasuries represented an unrivaled genius. Teacher He Peng said that although Chengdu had not met the requirements yet, he could first sign a C-rank contract and become a reserve candidate for the Keelin class. After all, the 3 top martial arts universities could not be applied to directly. Only geniuses discovered by their admissions offices could enter. Once Chengdu signed, the school would provide resources worth over $1 million, including chi blood medicines, martial hall sparring partners, and mental tempering pills. If Chen Du met the requirements before becoming a martial artist, he could officially enter the Qilin class, and his contract would also be upgraded to B rank. Chen Du only had one question. Could he bring his family there to settle with him? But the answer was beyond his expectations. Family members could only remain in their current registered residence. This was a written rule meant to ensure everyone's safety. Only martial artists assigned to missions, or skyborn martial artists, could freely travel between different regions. Hearing this, Chen Du bowed slightly and thanked them, saying he appreciated their recognition, but he already had a martial arts university in mind. The two teachers were instantly shocked. Had Black Dragon Martial Arts University, or Heavenly Phoenix Martial Arts University, already reached out to him first? Chen Du replied that they had not. The university he wanted was Huangshan Martial Arts University. Teacher Yu was even more surprised. Wasn't that just one of the 8 elite universities, a level below the 3 top martial arts universities? But Chen Du's reason was still simple. He only wanted to protect his family. Teacher He Peng could not help persuading him again. Among tens of millions of examinees every year, the chance of entering the Qilin class was only 0.00014%. And across the entire high martial civilization, more than half of all skyborn martial artists came from the 3 top martial arts universities. If Chen Du truly wanted to protect his family, then he should grow stronger as quickly as possible. With his talent, his future influence on the world would be far greater than that of an ordinary person. Chen Du smiled faintly and thanked the teachers again for valuing his potential, but he still chose to give up the contract. After the 2 admissions teachers left, Chen Du could not help looking at teacher Ling Yun and asking if he had nothing to say. Teacher Ling Yun said this was Chen Du's own decision, so he would not interfere. It was true that listening to good advice could save trouble, but there was nothing wrong with walking the path one truly wanted. That said, Teacher Ling Yun still decided in his heart to find the principal and see if there was any other way. Meanwhile, at the Zhou family training ground, Zhou Xiaogu was continuously fighting someone, but her attacks were being blocked with ease every single time. That person was naturally her father, Principal Zhou. Seeing her attack blocked again, Zhou Xiaogu started acting like a sore loser. Principal Zhou helplessly reminded his daughter that she should focus on how to win the championship tomorrow. Zhou Xiaogu looked completely unconcerned because she still had an even stronger trump card that she had not revealed yet. The championship would definitely belong to Haiqing. The final round of the 100 City Championship officially began, and both the principal and Mayor Wang personally arrived to watch the matches. At this moment, the final round rules were announced. The first stage would randomly match contestants in one-on-one eliminations until only the top 5 remained. After that, there would be 4 rounds of drawn wheel battles. Whoever was drawn would have to challenge the other 4 contestants in a row. A win gave 2 points, a loss deducted 1 point, and the champion would be decided by total score with no possibility of a tie. If the drawn contestant was strong enough to crush everyone and defeat all 4 opponents, they would directly earn 8 points, making the championship basically certain. While Chen Du was thinking about the rules, the draw had already ended, and his opponent was Qu Zhongtian from the Haiqing team. This made Chen Du wonder whether Qi Zhongtian would deliberately drain his stamina to help Zhou Xiaogu win the championship. At the same time, boos rang out across the arena, because in the previous round, Chen Du had avoided fighting Zhou Xiaogu. Teacher Yu from Qilin Martial Arts University could not help saying that there was no point in watching the finals anymore. Teacher He Peng shook his head slightly and said he was betting on Chen Du's future. Then he raised the bank card in his hand, which contained the 1 million he planned to invest. At this moment, Chen Du did not know much about Qu Zhongtian. All he knew was that during the second round, Qu Zhongtian had barely used any effort before taking down his opponent. But the next second, Qu Zhongtian suddenly drew his long sword and rushed toward Chen Du. And when he did, Chen Du's eyes widened in surprise, because the martial technique Qu Zhongtian practiced was also the flowing light sword technique. In truth, Qu Zhongtian was just as surprised. So right from the start, he went all out and clashed fiercely with Chen Du. But what surprised Chen Du was that Qu Zhongtian's sword was unbelievably heavy. Could his martial technique have also reached the intuitive mastery stage? This made Chen Du realize he could not keep dragging things out. If he wanted to win the championship, he had to defeat 5 people in a row. So ending the fight quickly and preserving stamina was the only priority. From this point on, Chen Du stopped holding back. He launched Azure Dragon Thrust and rushed rapidly toward Qu Zhongtian. Qu Zhongtian understood the flowing light sword technique extremely well, so he naturally knew that using this move from the front did not carry much power. But Chen Du was only using it to accelerate. His body suddenly shifted, and he instantly changed the move into golden drums resounding. The sword rang like thunder, and Ku Zhongtian was confident he could still block it. Unexpectedly, Chen Du changed moves again, slashing diagonally with the third move, Forest Breeze. This strike landed perfectly in the gap of Ku Zhongtian's defense. As the blade passed through, Ku Zhongtian stumbled backward, his eyes filled with shock. He was shocked, not only because Chen Du had performed 30 consecutive changes, but also because this move had already reached the 100% first-tier limit. Countless spectators instantly erupted. None of them had expected Chen Du, the dark horse who had fought his way here, to truly live up to his name. Ku Zhongtian admitted defeat calmly, but he still felt puzzled. Had Chen Du really reached the first-tier limit? Why did he not sense the aura that should come with a martial technique at its limit? Even the principal found it hard to believe. After all, from 99% to 100%, there were 10 separate 0.1% thresholds. The two teachers from Keelin Martial Arts University seemed to notice something as well. They looked even more shocked, but they could not confirm it yet, because if their guess was true, it would be far too outrageous. At this moment, Principal Zhou walked over. After hearing that people from Keelin Martial Arts University had arrived, he came specifically to greet them. Teacher Yu smiled and congratulated him, asking whether Zhou Xiaogu had already received a B-rank contract from Black Dragon Martial Arts University. Principal Zhou simply smiled modestly. At the same time, he also admitted that Chen Du was indeed outstanding, and the upcoming matches were still worth watching. The competition progressed quickly, and the first round soon reached its final match, Zhou Xiaogu's battle. Although everyone knew how strong she was, the Haicheng spectators still could not help feeling worried. After all, the other two members of the Haicheng team had already lost. But next, Zhou Xiaogu used her strength to crush every doubt. Facing an opponent with an extremely tough defensive style, she shattered his defense with just one move, and with that, the first round came to an end. Zhou Xiaogu's instant victory made the Haicheng spectators erupt in cheers. Without any pause, the second round began right away. Unexpectedly, the first person drawn to enter the arena was Zhou Xiaogu. Zhou Xiaogu smiled faintly and directly declared that the person she wanted to challenge was Chen Du. In other words, this match would decide the championship, which was exactly what Chen Du wanted. Zhou Xiaogu went all out the moment she made her move, opening with a 100% limit martial technique. The fourth move of the Saint King staff technique, Crushing Deluge, erupted as countless staff shadows surged like towering waves, carrying the intent of the limit. It was almost a metaphysical elevation of martial arts, and terrifying pressure poured down. But Chen Du only guided it lightly with the tip of his sword. And he actually redirected that overwhelming force. A flash of surprise crossed Zhou Xiaogun's eyes. As expected, Chen Du was not someone to underestimate. Suddenly, the audience cried out in shock because the blue light surrounding Chen Du had abruptly solidified. Teacher Ling Yun grinned. He had not expected Chen Du to truly pull it off. Teacher Yu from Keelin Martial Arts University was even more shocked. Chen Du really had reached level 10 mental power and successfully evolved his soul into a martial soul. The situation in the arena changed instantly. Chen Du's speed more than doubled, and his sword light flashed like lightning. Facing Chen Du's slash, Zhou Xiaogu almost failed to dodge in time. But Chen Du's attack did not end there. He gave her no chance to breathe, turned and slashed down again. Zhou Xiaogu immediately pulled her staff behind her back and blocked Chen Du's blade. She could clearly feel that Chen Du's strength had become much heavier. The weight added by martial soul power had far exceeded her expectations. Zhou Xiaogu tried her best to adjust her rhythm, but under Chen Du's relentless attacks, she still inevitably exposed an opening. Chen Du seized the chance and completely disrupted Zhou Xiaogu's battle rhythm. She could only keep defending in exhaustion, barely able to stabilize herself. Chen Du knew he could not give Zhou Xiaogu a chance to regain her footing. If he kept this up, he could win. Principal Liang was so shocked that his eyes nearly popped out. He had never expected Chen Du to be hiding this much. This was no longer about aiming for the top 3. The plan had changed, and Chen Du was going straight for the championship. Teacher, Yu also gave a bitter smile and shook his head, admitting that he had misjudged Chen Du. It seemed he would have to swallow his pride and look for Chen Du again tonight. But as Chen Du and Zhou Xiaogu clashed fiercely, even though Zhou Xiaogu was clearly the one being suppressed, Principal Zhou, the doting father in the audience, was not worried at all. This left Teacher Yu beside him, full of confusion. Then, in the next moment, Chen Du suddenly felt that the force coming from Zhou Xiaogu's staff had changed. It was no longer a panicked struggle, but calm and steady, as if she had become a different person. Zhou Xiaogu even had enough energy to comment on Chen Du, saying that even in her old man's eyes, he could be considered a genius. Then her tone shifted, and the corner of her lips lifted. But she was different. She was a genius among geniuses. Dark blue energy surged from Zhou Xiaogu's body like a tide, and it was exactly the same kind of power as Chen Du's martial soul power. Her soul had also advanced into the martial soul realm. Combined with her first-tier limit martial technique, calling her an unrivaled genius was no exaggeration. Chen Du's heart sank, and he immediately realized he could not drag this out any longer. But the combined burst of martial soul power and limit-level martial technique instantly forced Chen Du into a disadvantage. Zhou Xiaogu's staff descended like crashing waves, and the sword in Chen Du's hand was directly knocked away. Zhou Xiaogu looked at Chen Du and signaled that the match should end here. His performance had indeed surprised her, but it was still not enough. But Chen Du replied in a low voice, it was not over, and she was not the one who got to decide that. Zhou Xiaogu's staff came crashing at him once again, but in that instant, Chen Du's eyes seemed to gather thunder within them. He shouted in a low voice, mental shock, war stomp. Zhou Xiaogu did not even have time to feel shocked. The instant their eyes met, a massive torrent of mental power rushed straight into her mind. At the same time, inside Zhou Xiaogu's spiritual sea, she clearly knew this was an illusion created by Chen Du, but she could not break free from it. Just then, a giant that seemed to support heaven and earth descended with a thunderous crash and stomped down on her viciously. On the arena, Zhou Xiaogu suddenly dropped to one knee and let out a painful groan. Chen Du picked up the sword that had fallen nearby and slowly walked toward her. The Haichen spectators instantly panicked, praying that Zhou Xiaogu would stand up quickly. But this time, there was no reversal. A streak of swordlight cut across Zhou Xiaogu's body. Her life device was destroyed, which meant Chen Du had won. Principal Zhou, the doting father, was furious. His precious daughter had been beaten like this, and he had definitely remembered Chen Du now. On the other hand, the two teachers from Tilin Martial Arts University were so excited they almost jumped up, because they clearly saw that Chen Du had actually comprehended a mental-type martial technique on his own. This meant Chen Du's mental power ceiling could absolutely reach level 15 or higher. As long as his life intensity was raised, a future Skyborn martial artist was right in front of them. Someone like this was even worth offering a quasi-A-rank contract. After all, people qualified to sign contracts at that level were rare beyond rare. Teacher, you believed Chen Du was absolutely worth it, but they did not have the authority. Any contract above A rank required the principal's signature. So he immediately flashed into the hallway and called Peng Wentian, the principal of Qin Martial Arts University. Principal Peng had always trusted the admissions office's judgment. Since they were optimistic about Chen Du, an A-rank contract could be offered. But bringing Chen Du's family to the first ecosphere would violate the written rules of the high martial civilization. Teacher, you immediately explained that the other two top martial arts universities had already signed students with A-rank contracts, while Qilin Martial Arts University had only found Chen Du, who met the standard. They needed to sign him early and help raise his life intensity. That way, in the 3-school tournament, 1 month after enrollment, they might still have a chance to compete, instead of ranking last every year. Principal Peng fell silent for a moment, then said he would think about it. In the remaining matches that afternoon, Chen Du swept through 3 opponents without suspense, and the championship trophy landed firmly in his hands. This was also Liang Cheng's first championship, creating history for the city. At the same time, Chen Du secretly felt lucky that he had wiped out the two-faced blade bears last night, raised his mental power to level 10, advanced into a martial soul, and comprehended War Stomp. Without those breakthroughs, today's match might really have gone wrong. Elsewhere, inside Principal Zhou's office, his secretary asked him whether he wanted to go meet Chen Du, since the award ceremony had already begun. Principal Zhou shook his head slightly and said they would meet next time. At the same time, he explained that he would return to the Linnet Martial Hall in a few months, and told his secretary to inform the other 3-star deacons that the dynasty plan was officially starting. The next day, Chen Du had already returned home to Liangcheng. His father could not stop smiling after hearing that Chen Du had won the championship. His mother also prepared a big meal for him. Chen Du happily told them that the prize money this time was substantial, so they would no longer need to worry about his martial arts resources for now. After the 100 City Championship ended, Chen Du finally had some rare free time and was shopping with his adorable younger sister. But unexpectedly, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. His sister looked confused, thinking maybe a fan had come to ask for his autograph. But when she turned around, a massive monster appeared right before her eyes. Alarm bells rang in Chengdu's heart. How could this silver demon appear so openly on the streets of Liangcheng? And why had the city invasion alarm not sounded at all? The silver demon had already taken an attacking stance, and 8 spikes rose from its body, which meant its life intensity had reached level 8. Chengdu immediately shoved his sister away and told her to run. In the next instant, the silver demon's giant fist tore through the air and came crashing down. But when Chengdu looked around, he could not find any usable weapon. He could only grab a steel bar from the roadside. With no time to think, martial soul power instantly wrapped around his entire body. He opened with the flowing light sword technique. Dozens of sword lights poured out like a dense rainstorm, slamming violently into the silver demon. But this was Chengdu's first time using the flowing light sword technique, with a weapon other than a sword, so the technique did not fully take shape. The silver demon's skin was not even scratched. Its iron fist had already smashed toward Chengdu, and with no time to dodge, he could only take the hit head-on. At the same time, Chengdu instantly understood that the silver demon's life intensity was 2.1 levels higher than his. Without a suitable weapon, he could not defeat it at all. Only one thought remained in Chengdu's mind. Retreat was the best option. But unexpectedly, when his sister saw Chengdu in danger, she did not run. Instead, she anxiously picked up a stone and attacked the silver demon, trying to create an opening for him. Chengdu's eyes widened at the sight. The silver demon suddenly turned its head and locked onto his sister. How could Chengdu possibly accept that? He immediately revealed the trump card he had been saving. War Stomp erupted, and a terrifying flood of mental power swept through the silver demon's nerves like a tsunami, forcibly freezing its massive body in place. At the moment the silver demon exposed an opening, in that life and death instant, Chengdu seemed to understand something. The crystal space notification sounded at that exact moment. His flowing light sword technique had risen from first tier 99% to first tier 99.1%. Chengdu finally understood what intuitive mastery truly meant. Even the broken steel bar in his hand could become a sharp sword. But after repeated clashes, the steel bar could no longer hold. After one more direct collision, it shattered with a boom. Chengdu immediately threw away the broken steel bar. While the silver demon was still stiff, he picked up his sister and ran. As he sprinted, he opened his smartwatch and sent out a distress signal. But unexpectedly, the silver demon blocked his path again with just one leap. Chengdu was already prepared to risk his life. Even if his internal organs were shattered, he would throw his sister out of the danger zone. At the critical moment, the silver demon's head exploded like an overripe watermelon. Hu Qian from the City Defense Corps swooped in like a divine warrior. He asked Chengdu if he was all right, and said he had rushed over as soon as he received the message. His sister finally let out a sigh of relief. Chengdu said he was fine and thanked Hu Qian, completely unaware that all of this had actually been arranged by the principal. It turned out that this silver demon had been arranged by the principal. Hu Qian had also been instructed by the principal in advance to secretly protect Chengdu and his family. The principal hoped this staged encounter tonight would make Chengdu truly understand something. That night, inside the martial arts building of Liangcheng No. 1 High School, the principal's arrangement had successfully awakened Chengdu completely. He had been far too naive before, and tonight's encounter made him deeply understand the importance of life intensity. The silver demon's martial technique level was clearly low, yet with life intensity alone, it had completely suppressed Chengdu. In the face of absolute life intensity suppression, his technique was simply too fragile, and raising life intensity required massive resources. That 1 million in prize money might seem like a lot, but in reality, it was only a drop in the bucket. If a real disaster happened, even if Chengdu studied at Huangshan Martial Arts University, he would never make it back in time to save his family. Only by obtaining Chuan Martial Arts University's resources and combining them with the crystal space could he improve himself at the fastest possible speed, destroying every enemy before they ever had the chance to attack.